Good evening. I would like to call the Mashpee Public School Committee business meeting of September 20th, 2023 to order. It is 5:32 and our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who live here and have been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. All right, next on the agenda, we are going to ratify the agenda of September 20th, and I'm just going to quickly run through it for everyone. We have public comment, approval of the minutes of August 16th. I think I saw Mr. Greendeer here. So a representative of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Education Department. Falcon Discovery Camp Share Out from Camp Coordinator Christine Majakamo and students. Mastriacom, I'm sorry, I butchered that. I apologize. Student Advisory Committee Representative Andrew Kelly and his share out, report of the superintendent, the Director of Finance report, any reports from subcommittees and working group updates, specifically assigned unfinished business, and then new business and items the chair did not necessarily know in advance with our second public comment session, and then adjournment. So I will take a motion or entertain a motion to ratify the agenda.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to ratify today's agenda.
And I will second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Dan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. Okay, so I know I saw a couple names and I am aware there are a few people who wish to speak. So before we call people up, I'm going to read the policy on public comment as it currently stands. So public participation at school committee meetings. All regular and special meetings of the school committee shall be open to the public. Executive sessions will be held only as prescribed by the statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The school committee desires members of the Mashpee Public School community to attend its meetings so that they may become better acquainted with the operations and the programs of the Mashpee Public Schools. In addition, the committee would like the opportunity to hear the wishes and ideas of members of the Mashpee Public School community on matters within the scope of their authority. These matters include the budget for Mashpee Public Schools, the performance of the superintendent, and the educational goals and policies of Mashpee Public Schools. In order that all members of Mashpee Public School community who wish to be heard before the committee have a chance and to ensure the ability of the committee to conduct the district's business in an orderly manner, the following rules and procedures are adopted consistent with state and federal free speech laws. Currently, at the start and end of each regularly scheduled school committee meeting, individuals or group representatives who have signed up to speak will be invited to address the committee during its 2 10-minute public comment periods. Public comment is not a time for debate or for response to comments by the school committee. All speakers are encouraged to present their remarks in a respectful manner. All speakers must begin their remarks by stating their name, town or city of residence, and affiliation. All remarks will be addressed through the chair of the meeting. Public comment may address topics on the agenda, items specifically identified for public comment, or other topics that are within the scope of the school committee's authority. Therefore, any comments involving staff members or students must concern the educational goals, policies, or budget of the Mashpee Public Schools or the performance of the superintendent. Assuming that 3 or fewer speakers sign up to engage in each public comment period, each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to present their material. If 4 or more speakers sign up to engage in public comment, then each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes to present their material. No more than 5 speakers will be accommodated at any individual comment period. Speakers may not assign their time to another speaker, and in general, extensions of time will not be permitted. Large groups addressing the same topic are encouraged to consolidate their remarks and/or select a spokesperson to comment at public comment. Speakers may not assign their time to another speaker, and in general, extensions I kind of repeated that, sorry about that. Speakers who require reasonable accommodations on the basis of speech-related disability or who require language interpretation services may be allotted a total of 5 minutes to present their material. Speakers must notify the school committee by telephone or email at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting if they wish to request an extension of time for one of these reasons. And let's see. Comments made at public comment do not reflect the views or the positions of the school committee. Because of constitutional free speech principles, the school committee does not have the authority to prevent all speech that may be upsetting and or offensive at public comment. The school committee will not respond to any comments made during public comment, as it is not a time for debate or response. So, that being said, all of that housekeeping out of the way, who do we have for public comment? I guess let's figure that out first, and that will determine the times.
First, we have Victoria Hare.
How many total do we have, Sherry? Three? Okay, so with 3 or fewer speakers, that means everyone is allowed 3 minutes. So Miss Hare, if you could come up and make sure you speak into the microphone so that the recording can pick you up. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Let me know when I can begin.
All right. It's yours.
Hello, my name is Victoria Hare. I'm the mother of a Casey Coombs preschool student, a Quashnet student, a substitute, an active community member, and the creator and facilitator of the You Go Girl program. Thank you to the committee and administration for holding this meeting and making space for public comment. First, let me say, I am full of nerves as I look out onto a governing board where I am not presented as a Latina woman. That being said, I'm here today to urge the school committee to first, reevaluate Superintendent DeBoer's decision to withdraw support from the You Go program, and secondly, to further prioritize work outlined in Mashpee's 4 Pillars of Success to cultivate and create more community partnerships and programming that honor the diversity represented in our community. Today, I'm speaking on issues of access, equity, and representation. I want to approach this topic with respect and caution, as I'm well aware of the heavy hands that can swing in topics of this nature. For the purposes of my address, I'd like to look at access as a doorway, equity as ensuring there's a pathway to that door for anyone who needs it, and representation as the messages that we send of inspiration to portray possibilities and impact available to all. This is not only a conversation on race, but equally important on neurodivergence, on socioeconomics, family structures, and values. This is a conversation for the families whose parents work 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is for a conversation for the families that are new to the area and do not know how to navigate its resource channels. For the families that may not have the privilege or have a high level of parent commitment and involvement, as well as a conversation for the children who do not feel safe, welcomed, or motivated by the traditional extracurricular offerings. In this scenario, the doorway is to youth empowerment programs. Equity is ensuring that there is a pathway to these programs for all who may not have the means to access, and representation is support of a diverse collection of community members and businesses. What I'm advocating for here is equity, to bring skills, opportunity, and experiences to those highlighted above, plus so many more. Equity is ensuring there's a supported pathway to youth empowerment programs here in Mashpee. Last year, I had the opportunity to attend Dr. Warnham's session on microaggression and implicit bias. At that session, it became clear to me, one critical factor in why we are where we are is our young people do not know how to talk to each other, take accountability, much less the responsibility to be an upstander. Many of you may have heard me speak at that session. Having gone through the process of getting my son on a 504 and ultimately an IEP, I am well aware of what resources, paths, and limitations of free public education consists of. Yet when working in the school, I've seen what an amazing group of teachers that we have, that truly love these kids, but also how incredibly stretched they are to do much more than classroom management and conduct required curriculum. Please let me be clear. Again, our amazing devoted teacher staff here in Mashpee, it's been an honor to work alongside them and to learn from them. I'm here to support them and to create complementary works that will further model collaboration for our youth. Thank you to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And next we have Derek here.
Can you hear me okay?
You're good.
I'm ready to go.
You're good.
Right. Hello, my name is Derek Hare. I am the father of a Casey Coombs pre-K student, a 3rd grade Quashnet student, an active duty military member, and Victoria Hare's partner. Thank you to the committee and administration for holding this meeting and making space for public comment. I will be using this time to continue reading Victoria's address. So where was this work going to happen? This work to empower our children to be upstanders, to teach them how to navigate emotions, how to resolve conflict, and have flexible growth mindsets. Because we must be honest, the work in these areas within the school is a distant second to academic requirements, classroom management, mandated state testing, and curriculum guidelines. And these topics need more than posters, reminders, quick mini lessons in a structured setting. These topics require practice in a safe, inclusive environment. You Go Girl directly supports many of the initiatives and outcomes the Mashpee Public School is committed to through their 2021 through 2025 Plan for Success. As it states in Objective 2A, the school is committed to our students' attainment of skills, knowledge, and self-confidence to access all learning opportunities. By promoting a community partnership with a Latina woman from a humble, homegrown beginning, the school is supporting Objective 2B, ensuring a staff that is more closely reflective of the school community. As stated earlier, this address to the committee is not only to reconsider support and collaboration with You Go Girl, but also to urge the committee to ensure more community partnerships that represent our Mashpee community are available. To name a few, 1, our military community, 2, our English as a second language community, 3, our families and students battling bullying, mental health, and addiction, 4, our families and students that are impacted by socioeconomic hardship. It is important that the schools show they are aware of the challenges their community faces and are committed to be a resource and a support for those families' success and rehabilitation. Bringing more diverse community partnerships and resources can be a step to show the community that the Mashpee Public School is committed to the access, equality, equity, and representation. So we, along with many others in this room and watching, are requesting that the school committee revisit the decision to withdraw support from the You Go Girl Empowerment Program and implore you to go a step further to ensure that many more community partners be present and active in the school. We ask you do this in the spirit of creativity and commitment to change, not letting bureaucracies and outdated policies be a stop sign, but rather a crossroad in the journey where we choose what must change and what we must focus on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Kelly Farwell.
An extra minute. Can you hear me?
Hold on one second, I just gotta get the timer. Oops. You're good to go.
Awesome. Hello, my name is Kelly Farwell. I live in Mashpee. I have a first grader in Casey Coombs School and a third and sixth grader in Quashnet. I'm an active mentor of the community and an educator, as well as over a decade and a half of special education and ESL as a second language and teaching experience. As a mother of a daughter that experienced the Yo Go Girl program, I wanted to come and support the Yo Go Girl program to reinforce the importance of sharing opportunities like this with the school community, as it is a hub that makes it accessible to a larger group. It is clear that the intention of this program is to empower girls, not to leverage students for income or inappropriate exploitation. This can be seen as if any of the curriculum is reviewed. If you get a chance to visit the program or meet the amazing instructor, Victoria Hare, you would also see this intention. During my daughter's time at Yo Go Girl program, she built new friendships, self-confidence, learned more about herself, tried new foods. If you know picky eaters, you get my excitement. Miss Victoria not only provided clear age-appropriate activities and materials to build self-confidence and empowerment with the girls, but also worked on presenting other topics such as teamwork, community, and communication in a safe, supported environment. We need more programs out there like Yo Go Girl. We need more people like Victoria Hare who step up and know there's a difference to be made. Feeling supported and being a part of the community is what it's all about. So I am seconding the request of the school committee to revisit the decision to withdraw support from the Yo Go Girl Empowerment Program. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. I know we had a few other people before we move on. Did anyone else want to make public comment before we move on? Okay. Well, thank you to all who spoke. We're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes of August 16th. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 16th as presented in the packet.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Matt. Any discussion? Edits, amendments? Okay, hearing none. Dan, how do you vote?
Yes?
Matt?
Yes.
Don? Okay, and I vote yes. All right, Mr. Greendeer, it is time for us to speak with you.
All right. So I'm here on behalf of Roxanne, and she wants to dance.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
How are you?
You guys hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm here as a representative of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Education Department. My name is Cameron Greendeer. I know most of you know, I know most of you are here, and good to see everyone again on a new school year. And just want to make a few announcements. STEP grant that I run, which is all on professional development, building capacity, and educating our educators on the benefit of our tribal students, is ending September 30th. The funding has ended. It was a 3-year grant, and we have all of our reporting and of our 3-year accomplishments on that packet there. If you guys go into the further report, it'll go into detail. Roxanne really laid it out there for you guys of what we've been doing. So it's been enjoyable 3 years. I appreciate your time, your commitments, the cooperation, the collaboration, the chance to really educate not only students, but also your faculty. To really get to know us as Native people and how we learn different, how we're just different as Native people, especially our tribal students. Wanted to make another announcement about the September 30th is Orange Shirt Awareness Day. So that's on the boarding school era. So you guys are familiar with the boarding school era? Yes, where the federal government took all Native children in the 1800s, all Native children from all villages, and forced them into schools and forced them to assimilate into mainstream society. They weren't allowed to speak their language. They weren't allowed to be Native at all. They saw serious abuse. They saw serious atrocities our Native children went through. And that intergenerational trauma is still being passed on to today. I know some of you heard my story, the one story I've had, my personal story on my own trauma that was passed down to me and my struggles in high school and middle school. So that Orange Shirt Awareness Day is something really huge. It's really focusing on the Native children that lost their lives, of thousands of Native children across United States and Canada. And they were lost at these schools. And there's now becoming, now there's more mass graves across the United States and Canada. Mass graves, unmarked graves of these Native students that were never sent home, that never survived school. And how many schools do you know that have graves at them? Not many, correct? So I really think I want to get my point across to not only you guys, but also the community, that National Orange Shirt Day is really something to celebrate those spirits that have lost, that we have lost as Native people. So to this day, we are resilient people. We're still trying to come through. I myself, as an advocate and an educator for our Native people, our Native children, I appreciate all your time over the years, the 3 years that I was in with the schools and partnerships with Mashpee, and I appreciate your guys' time. We have a few things going on this year. The lunch bunches are still going to go on throughout the high school and middle school, and also the elementary and Casey Coombs. So we look forward to doing that, really getting there. And we also talked about performances this year with Patty. So we're in the middle of working that out with educational performances for all levels. otherwise than that, the 3 years has been pretty magical, pretty awesome. It was a great time, and not only I got to educate you guys, but I was further educated on how this all works as well. Thank you guys very much.
Anyone?
Any questions? Sorry.
Anyone?
I'll just say, as someone who attended the Orange Shirt event last year, it was incredibly moving and empowering opportunity, and I just want to add to obviously to the tribal community for welcoming us as non-tribal members, and I look forward to attending the trip.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll still see you around though, right? You're not
Yeah.
leaving, right?
Yeah, I got a lot of kids, so they're in school. So you see me around there, then playing sports and all these other things. Oh my God, I'm all over the place. But yeah, I also just want to make a note also that again, I'm from the Ho-Chunk Nation of Wisconsin, and that my wife is Mashpee Wampanoag. So the Mashpee Wampanoag are like my family. They welcome me with open arms. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for all your work on this STEP grant. I know it was a lot of work and a lot of time, and we appreciate what you've done to help connect further and strengthen those connections. So thank you for what you've done.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Next, we have Camp Coordinator Christine Mastrogiacomo here. Did I say it right that time? Okay. Here to share out about Camp Falcon. So please come on up. I understand you got some campers with you too. Just make sure you might want to pass the microphone around so that everybody can be. You can take it right off if you want. It comes right off.
So thanks for having us. I'm Christine Mastrogiacomo, Falcon Discovery Camp Coordinator. We were able to have camp again this summer with actually many more offerings. We had a wonderful time. Sherry, is that on present or should I? It's not. So these were some of the offerings that we were able to have at camp, and the students who were here figured that they would be able to share out what they did over the summer, what they enjoyed. Emily here wrote something up that I haven't even read yet, so I'll be surprised too about what she gets to say about camp. Do you want to introduce yourselves and say what grade you're in?
Yeah, you can, like I said, just take it right off and they can pass it. It's probably easier.
My name is Emily and I'm in 8th grade.
My name is Isabella and I'm in 2nd grade.
My name is Alice, I'm in 2nd grade.
My name is Jason, I'm in 3rd grade.
So we were able to offer everything from academic to athletic to extracurricular clubs this summer. We had Lexia Club, SD Math Club, so a couple of more traditional academic clubs. For sports, we had Basketball Club, Field Day Club, and then we also had some creative new ones, Cape Cod Animal Club, Nature Club, Fuse Beads Club, a lot of crafting clubs. What am I forgetting?
You can't forget the Animal Club.
I can't forget what?
The Animal Club?
That was popular.
Yeah, I loved it.
You did?
Passing Project Brock.
Oh, Passion Projects Club. So the kids were able to design their own learning activities in that club. That was fun. And we have some pictures here of the different clubs and activities that the students did. No, you didn't do that one. Emily, do you want to share your words?
Hello, my name is Emily, and I'm a grade 8 student in the Mashpee High School. I went to Falcon Camp this past summer. I attended Book Reading Club, the Science Experiments Club, Board Games Club, and a few others. I have been attending every year that Falcon Camp was available since 3rd grade. In Science Experiments Club, we built a bridge to see how many pennies it would hold, and in Board Games Club, we played a variety of board games. My favorite part was Bookman Club. In Bookman Club, you make me books about vacations that we went on during the summer. Thank you for offering this program to our students.
Isabella, do you want to share your favorite part too?
I like the animal club because we got to make like the animals' habitats. And I also liked eating outside because I got to see my other friends that weren't in my class. Thanks, Pie.
I'm beginning to think there might have been a giggle club at some point.
My favorite part is field day club because we get to play with our water balloons, and I could see my Pokemon club teacher.
Thank you. So we hope to continue again next year and maybe add Gilgo Club to the list. Thanks.
Great. Any questions for either our wonderful facilitator or our campers?
Speaking of having other clubs, are there any clubs that you guys think of, that you'd like to see next year? Maybe that you didn't see that maybe you'd like to see?
Any ideas for next summer and club?
I want to do puppy club. Puppy club. Dinosaur club.
Okay.
Bunny club. No.
Christine, how many students participated this year?
It varied week to week. The highest was 107.
It was 4 weeks this year, right?
Correct.
And it runs grades 3 through
First through 8th.
1st through 8th. That's right.
Yeah. Say thank you to the staff members, obviously, for a part of that. I thoroughly enjoyed learning about making clovers this summer. Habitat. So the knowledge and the support is not just obviously for the students involved, but it trickles down to the household as well. So thank you guys.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
I think we have one more comment, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's great to hear how that program has evolved over time. It started off as just an idea, and you guys have really taken the initiative to make it into something that's worthwhile to each of you, and something that you're able to learn and get back with you. So I'm glad to hear that it's working well. So, thank you.
I just want to acknowledge Christine Master-Giacomo because she has been the coordinator. This was year 3, I think, as coordinator.
3 or 4.
Anyway, she is extremely well organized, and it starts very early in the spring when all of the other summer offerings are getting going. And she just does a really complete, thorough job from planning all the way through execution and making sure each day runs well. So we're very lucky to have her in that role. So thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yeah. Can parents, are you okay if we get a picture with your children?
All right, so how about if you guys walk behind them? They're all sitting so nicely.
Me
too.
Yeah.
Hi.
Jasmine, you might need to slide in a little bit. Squeeze in.
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
How about no water in the fall? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys for sharing.
Okay, thanks so much. Like, you're always like, helping with everything.
Bye. Bye. Wait up.
All right. Don't feel you have to stay, but if you want to, school committee meetings are a wonderful time to find out what's going on in your school district. But again, we appreciate you all coming out, but don't feel like you have to stay through the whole meeting. But if you want to, you're welcome. Okay. Totally understand. All right. All right, so next on the agenda, one of our newer agenda items are a report from Student Advisory Committee Rep. Andrew. I'm sorry, I should have asked if you had questions too, but feel free to chime in anytime.
Yeah, of course.
We're still kind of getting used to it.
I understand.
But, all right, so.
Just what we've been doing so far?
Yeah, like, have you guys met? What's, I know we still have to kind of figure it out, and we have our first meeting next month with the committee, the two committees, but I don't know if you guys have had any meetings or anything you want to share out.
We have had some meetings. I think we've had 2 or 3. We're kind of trying to do them every week just so we can have an up-to-date view of what's going on in the school. We've done a few things which I've written down here. We've worked on a couple surveys just to see how people are adjusting to the new school. We've recruited new members, especially ones from like the lower grades, because we ultimately want to be a variety of people, and we had just 11th and 12th graders. So we're like, we want some 9, 10, have a mix in there. So we've definitely recruited more members, which is good. We've only had a couple meetings because scheduling was weird, and that's about it. We talked a little bit about how at least the committee felt about new changes to the school. If you want me to share out.
Whatever you'd like to do. I mean, if you want to share them now or if you want to wait, it's up to you.
I can share a couple of them out. Some students are having trouble with the shorter passing time. I think it's now 2 minutes. 3 minutes, my bad. But sometimes going from one end of the classroom, not classroom, but the school to the other, it can be a little bit of a sprint. So I think I think teachers are well aware of that, but that's just what I have on my notes. I knew this was going to happen, but students aren't very happy about the phone rule. I think overall they understand why it needs to be there. I think this might just be the withdrawal phase. Just, they really are having trouble with that, but we'll work on that. I think I've definitely been trying to tell people that I know it's for the good of everyone. So, okay. And that's about all that we've done. So
in September, I know it's everybody's getting back, and it's only week 3?
3 days, like the 14th actual school day.
So 2, if you go by 70, so it's still early, so not surprised it's not a lengthy report, and don't worry about it. That's a good start, it sounds like. So any questions for Andrew before we move on? Okay. All right. Thank you. And like I said, we have our first meeting with you October 11th, yes. So if you don't already have that on your schedule, that's one of the joint committee meetings.
I'll try to get with you at some point because I have one of our other subcommittees I have to attend, and I'll try to work with you guys' schedule when you have one of your meetings, so that way I can come to the committee, because I won't be able to do it when you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Great. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the report of the superintendent, so.
And I did want to just point out, there was a handout in the MASC, I guess it's the newsletter, but it's a really good summary in terms of the student advisory committee that we're getting going. So I just want to make sure you notice that that's in there. So the start of the school year has been relatively smooth. We had all of our staff back on the 28th and 29th. We did ADL training on the 28th, and convocation was the 29th. And we did have Dr. Calvin Mackey as a speaker. He was really outstanding. Students came back then on that Wednesday and Thursday before Labor Day. Everybody was enthusiastic, lots of adjustments. We all know that on, it would have been September 7th, I believe, it was predicted to be a very, very hot day. We did call a half day. For students, our buildings are miserably hot. They're starting to cool down now that we've had a few days of better temperatures, but there's really no way to relieve the heat when you have over 1,700 bodies in our buildings. It's just really challenging. Just most likely, it's more like a survival mode than a learning mode because it's very hard. And then in terms of MMHS, and Andrew talked a little bit about the phones, and I also was going to touch on the, no bringing your own device. I met today with my superintendent student advisory council. Today was our first meeting, and I brought up sort of some of the changes in adjusting to MMHS. And the phones, they all understood as well. Most were good with it. And I do have some data on the number of challenges that we've had to it. Well, I just wanted to share that since I'm in that section. So through today, we've had 19 students in grades 10 through 12 who had, they got a slip because they had their phone out when they weren't supposed to. And of those students, one was a two-timer. The data they also provide me also talks about whether a student refuses to turn in their phone as is required or not. And so there's other consequences of detention. The bigger group is in the 7 through 9, which is totally what I would have expected as well. 29 students through today have had challenges with keeping their phones, and a few kids have had multiple times in that part. But I will say from my being up there, and I'm not up there all the time, but I have been up there in many years past as well, it does feel very different to me, particularly when kids are changing classes, because without noticing what was different, and then I said, well, what is different? A group of kids was coming like towards the gym, and in their 3 minutes, but they were talking to each other, they were looking forward, and they did not have earbuds in their ears. And so I feel like we're slowly coming back to figuring out how to be socially appropriate with each other and build relationships, and I noticed it without looking for it. And then I was like, oh, it's because they're not in their phones. So they do have times. The kids today also like the 20-minute homeroom, which is now in sort of mid-morning, late morning, I would say. They do like that. I asked them what they did with that time. Some did homework, some just rest. They said, I just rest. They do get to use their cell phones then. Some were working on projects. That was very well liked, and also that it was longer and later. They like that as well. The bring your own device is a hard one, particularly for kids as they get older. It seems that Chromebooks are slow, obviously slower than some of the other laptops you can have. But they are adjusting, and I said, we'll keep looking at it, and maybe it's the quality of the Chromebooks we're providing, or there's other things we can do to our own system. We hit a little bit on the e-hall pass as well, which also is a very slow, it takes a while to put in whatever you need to put in. Okay, and so what some of the kids told me is they just don't go to the bathroom. I'm like, all day? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that is not the goal of the e-hall pass at all. So we need to look at it. I know that some of the students said how sometimes they go in the bathroom and a certain group of girls might be in there, so they have strategically figured out how to get there. But we have access to the data to figure that out. She said, this girl in the group said, I felt uncomfortable when I went in because it felt like I wasn't supposed to be in there. Because it was like something. But anyway, there's a lot to look at that. There's a lot of data collected. There's a lot of looking at the process. It is certainly not meant to be a deterrent to using the bathroom. So that was interesting feedback from more than one student. And I was like, okay, I gotta look at that. That's not the intent of the e-hall pass. But generally, I think at all schools, this school, well, I will say that we only have one principal here this evening, so, and she is of the Coombs School. We joked that building challenges follow Principal O'Brien wherever she goes. And today we had a problem with water at the Coombs School in terms, not as bad as it could have been. We are appreciative of DPW. They brought in quite a few pallets of 24-pack water bottles. They delivered them to all the classrooms today. I assume the stack in the cafeteria is for tomorrow. So it's really worked well together, and surprisingly few inquiries considering what we usually get when something is not right with the world. But I want to thank Principal Bryan for being very organized as well. She immediately got out the Google form for signing up for the bag lunch, what kind of sandwich they want, all the different levels of behind-the-scene planning that go into it. When I've talked to a lot of kids in all of the 3 buildings, they're very happy. I always ask them, how's the year going so far? And so I remember a couple of 6th graders last week. So one girl said, not so good. I said, well, okay, 1 to 10, what is it? She said, it's a 4. I said, why is it a 4? I thought she would have said heap. She said, well, because they don't listen. And she was like pointing over to a group of young 6th grade males. I said, okay, we can work on that. And then when I went in another classroom, his was the heat. But even at the Mashpee Middle High School, I've talked to a lot of students, and they were very positive about their teachers, the classes that they're taking. I do think the 3 minutes is a challenge. I explained to the group today, in order to get 20 minutes of homeroom, we had to pull from somewhere. And also, the minutes on learning are very regimented at the high school level. I know that Dr. Hanscom recently had, for an audit we had to sort of check all the schools. And so we could make passing a little longer by knocking off a minute in all the academics, but then you may not be meeting the time that you need for learning. So, and then the other piece of it is the directive to all the teachers is really teaching fully to the bell. So it's not that kids are lined up in the last 3 or 4 minutes of a class and getting a slight head start. So I think we need to look a little bit at that and say, okay, you're packed up with a minute or a minute and a half to go, so that there's an efficiency thing. And when you look at the efficiency of processes, I know that Principal O'Brien has been looking at her dismissal process at Coombs, and one of the things she changed was that all of the preschool, the 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds who have to get picked up by a car, they don't get on the bus. She's had them wait in the therapeutic playground, and the first day that she did that, she cut off 12 minutes in the process. So like, okay, she does a lot of efficiency studies. She's not listening to me talk about it, but anyway, she's doing a great job. I was talking about your dismissal, continuing to probe ways to improve the process.
We're working on it.
Yes, you are.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah. In terms of enrollment, I do want to point out, so you have this year-long sheet of meetings. The one that was in your packet, I did slightly change, only because in October, I wanted to make sure that we always look at the MASC resolutions, so that you have time to talk before going to the conference. So on the master one, and the one you probably got handed out, it is on there. But this is a good guide, and we're sharing this with the community as well, so you sort of, we don't forget anything. And it's a living document, so we'll keep adding to it. In terms of enrollment, you can see that the chart says 1,453 students. I did check right before I came down here, and it was 1,455, but obviously we cut it off at some point. One of the dips that you see if you're looking at sort of June to now is that 8th to 9th grade. So we ended the year with 124 8th graders, and we have 108 9th graders. And you can see down below, we have 16 at Cape Tech and 5 at Sturgis. So that's a little bit, a piece of it. We always have that. You can see that in school choice, we have 129 in. We don't have the out yet until we have DESE validating our numbers. 248 IEPs as of September. And then homeschool, you can see we have 16 this year currently. And that's a drop from the 25 we had last year, so maybe a slow evolution out of the pandemic. Are there any questions on that page? In terms of personnel, you have a very long two-sided sheet. Just as a quick overview, we have, I think we're done, except maybe one paraprofessional, but we've hired 40 new members to Team Mashpee. And then in addition to that, 13 members of the team changed roles or buildings. So there was a lot of movement. I said this at the last meeting, but we've brought in really great people and in many cases experienced people that bring a different perspective that we all learn from them as well. And it's really great to bring in that sort of new energy and into Mashpee for all of our staff. We do have our food services director and assistant food services director are on board. Well, their first day is actually tomorrow. I was just going to read briefly a little bit about each one of them. Kathy Kingsbury is our new director of food services. She lives in Lakeville, Massachusetts, so I don't know how the bridge is going to affect her. I will say some of our new members who live not that far, where before the Bourne Bridge work started, it took them 30 minutes to get. Some days it's been 2 hours. So now they've started to go like, Sagamore, back roads, Sagamore, and then come that way. Anyway, Kathy Kingsbury lives in Lakeville. Since 2011, most of her work career has been in the food services area, school food service, I should say. She most recently worked in New Bedford Public Schools, managing a staff of more than 20, including 5 schools and over 2,200 students. She's worked with and served a variety of people from executives to preschoolers. Fostering relationship is crucial in all we do, from staff and administrators to students to vendors and any visitors we encounter. She believes breakfast and lunchtime can truly complement or even set the tone for the school. A positive encounter at mealtime and well-fed students makes for a superb school experience for all involved. I think kids will attest to that. During her free time, she loves spending time with her husband, 5 children, 3 granddaughters, and their dog. She enjoys softball, blooper ball, which she explained to me, but I now cannot remember what she said that was, volleyball, bowling, and taking care of her yard, and she looks forward to making a difference for the Mashpee schools. She starts tomorrow. And our assistant food services director is Kristen Hulbert. And Kristen is a recent Framingham State University graduate with a bachelor's degree in food and nutrition. She was previously working at the John C. Stalker Institute of Food and Nutrition, which focuses on professional development for school nutrition professionals. In her free time, she likes to go to the gym, bake, and enjoys nature. She has a comprehensive background of food services and strives to have every student get proper nutrition in their meals. She looks forward to working with Mashpee Public Schools and also on the nutrition aspect, being an educator for classrooms, which also was Olivia's plan as well last year. So any questions on personnel?
I just have one question. Given am I to understand that interim leadership for both the principal and for the PD?
So, yes, the principal is an interim principal. The dean for 10, 11, and 12 is not likely to change, Ms. Melby. Because of the hiring time for Elizabeth Hutchison and based contractually, and it will have to be reposted, and she would be welcome to apply. So we'll be posting the principal and we'll be posting the dean for 7 through 9.
Okay. So
the interim title next to Ms. Melby's name will probably just sort of go away because she was on board much sooner in the summer in that role. Okay. This says probably not accurate on there.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Yeah. This is our cheat sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions on these people? We only have Principal O'Brien here. Would you like to share anything about the Coombs School?
Just what a wonderful place it is to be and to be able to be there. We had a wonderful open house last Thursday. We had a good turnout. It was great to see so many families. And I think as I reflect, I can't believe how many of my former students as a 5th grade teacher have stayed in Mashpee and now they're at the Coombs School. So it is such a
They do.
So I have a question that relates to Casey Coombs, and the water quality issue that has come up. Was the test being done by the school or by the water district, and was that a random test or was it a scheduled frequency test?
They come regularly, and they were in today as well, so it was the National Water Department. They came in and tested. I don't have the results from today's test, so we are prepared to do the same process we did today, where lunches are made at Washington, brought over to Coombs. The water bottles are in the student bottles for students, so it wasn't an issue. Most students brought water bottles today, so it was really fine, but we're more than prepared, and I'm really happy with the turnout. It was great to have Ashley Oaks there this morning, and Superintendent Moore were right there to support us. But I do believe that this post-graduate testing wasn't a special test. So hopefully we'll find that we're clear, but we don't know.
Yes, so, go ahead.
So is it, you say that's a regular review, so like really don't take the test for water and
So Andy Marks from the Mashpee Water District, they do routinely check twice a month across the town in multiple locations. He said there are sometimes they do once a month, and they had done the entire testing that they do in the town, and all of the samples had come up clean except for that one, which was taken from the nurse's sink at Coombs. And he said, when he talked to me last night, oftentimes there could have been something on the taker's glove or something in the tube. There are reasons sometimes. So they were doing this final test last night. If that test had come back sort of with fecal matter, it would have been a whole different subject or outcome. So they were coming back today to do another test. They also check like the house. They try to check the other buildings that feeds off of to make sure. But he told me that he has been doing this for 30 years. He was very confident that we could hold school and that everyone would be safe. And so I felt good in making sure that we move forward, because canceling school is a challenge for many families. Not that we wouldn't do it when we have to. We absolutely will. But I felt that we had options according to the experts.
So I guess my question is, do they specifically test each of the schools?
They do, regularly, at least monthly.
At least monthly?
Yes. They have a cycle.
No, that's good. I know the tests around the town, different places, but I did know the schools were doing all of the time.
He said we are. We don't always know it when they're doing it. Because they just
Maybe that's always their process.
I mean, I might have chosen to check a bubbler if I was not a sink in the nurse's office, because that's what the kids most. But
That's like the higher you want.
But they did, when I went over there this morning, all of the classroom sinks had been shut off, and most classrooms have a bubbler, and everything was shut down. The sinks in the bathrooms worked, and then they all have the hand sanitizer at the doors. So we were good. I do want to say that tomorrow night is the MMHS open house from 6 to 7:30. So all are welcome to attend, whether you have children there or not. I do believe each parent is following their child's schedule. There's not a meeting at the beginning of it as a whole group. Next Thursday night is the Quashnet open house. Under my acknowledgments, I do want to just celebrate that Principal Switzer did have his baby daughter was born on the 6th of September. He was out for a period of time. Tomorrow he's back, and then he has sort of a partial plan in place, but he definitely will be here for his open house as well. I do want to give, as part of the re-entry into school and also the incident with the water, but DPW has done an amazing job. They always do. We always have this sort of long list that the district leadership team puts together as sort of, this is what we'd like to have done this summer. They do a great job getting most of those done, and then sometimes things get scheduled for during vacations. But our schools look amazing, and they are very responsive to the challenges that we have in a timely way, so I'm grateful for that. I do want to, under acknowledgement recognitions, is the, and everyone I believe got this letter, but the Town of Mashpee Historical Commission, every year they recognize, they give an award, an annual award to recognize an individual or organization who has contributed to the preservation of Mashpee history. At the July 2023 Mashpee Historical Commission meeting, they unanimously voted to recognize the Mashpee One-Room Schoolhouse Woodshed Project participants to receive the Mashpee Historical Preservation Award for 2022. The schoolhouse newly completed woodshed is a major contribution to preserving the past, and it represents the completion of the restoration of the schoolhouse to its original design of 1831. So on Indigenous People Day from 10 to 11 at the Archives building, they will be having a ceremony, and they will be presenting the Mashpee Historical Commission Historic Preservation Award for 2022 to Mark Rosbach, who is a teacher at MMHS, and to 3 students, Bryson Farron, Tevin Mattis, and Andrew Weiner, who did that work. So if you're able to go, that's a nice event on Indigenous People Day. But it's a nice recognition, too, for our ability to contribute to that project, which is awesome. And I think that was all I had under acknowledgements, but I feel like I'm going to do the next section, too, so let's just keep going. Okay. You do have in the packet the athletic director's report that shows fall sports, who's coaching, the number of participants, different games that are scheduled. Are you on a team?
Cross country. Yeah.
Yes, Andrew's on cross country. You have Consuelo's report. If you have any questions on that, I can try to answer. As you know, we are not landing back at Mashpee Commons with a site.
Is it possible to get the number that follows on YouTube got cut off on the printout? I don't know if they got cut off. I didn't look at the online.
Yes,
I'll
we
look
can
again,
make
but
it smaller.
Just curious if we can see if we can get to that 1,000 followers on YouTube so people can know what's going on.
I thought there was a pop-up store today too, so like they got a great selection.
They do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the other thing
Actually,
I learned, and
sorry.
please confirm this, but parents can order online and their students can pick up items, is what I understand?
Yeah, you can do that. We actually, me and another captain of the cross country team, we went in there today, and it was, I loved that place so much, and Miss Carol was so helpful, and I like the
Do
store.
you find it having it in school is like better than having it say at the Commons? So that you
I
can
think
access
so,
it better?
yeah. I've definitely seen a lot more people in there than I usually see at the Commons, so I like it.
It's almost like if we got a space like having it like both, because like where I grew up, like we had one in the school, and like that was like a big thing to like get your sweatshirts and like
Yeah.
thing there.
I just thought it was neat that as parents, because order things and
Yeah,
kids could pick them up at
yeah.
lunch. I was like,
So one
Okay.
of there is a senior that's going to be working with Consuelo to build the online presence and online store as another opportunity. We are looking at, there is a spot, which we haven't gotten there yet, but finding a spot at Mashpee Middle High School where you could have an exterior door and still be able to lock off the rest. Because as it is now, she's open from 3 to 6 on certain days, and then she'll shift when she tries to time it when we have games and volleyball and things going on. But we want to make sure we're able to get to the community and have them feel welcome about coming in. So we've got ideas. We have a conversion of a little bus that we're working on that would be the outreach that can go to events. And also that's something with
those like little seats for like the bleachers and all that stuff. And I know that's one like if you had it at like one of the football games or soccer games or whatever, like people parents would probably like, oh, it wasn't bad the price tag.
right. Yeah. There's a lot of things that she's
like in the concession stand, like
brainstorming.
they could put some up in the concession stand.
They could work on that. They don't want to infringe on boosters though, because boosters generally sell something there at football time, definitely.
And so you're getting people in one spot.
Yes, no, we've contemplated many options, so, but we're getting there.
Look forward to see what you can make.
So I already introduced our new food services people in the packet, and Ashley apologizes, she does have a game. She's wearing a lot of hats right now. You have the FY24 budget to actual. I believe Dawn sent questions and Ashley responded. We'll make sure those get posted with this on website. Then the FY20, so you have the FY24 budget to actual. You have the revolving account balances on page 14. You have the school choice, page 15. Any questions on that? Page 16 shows the memorandum from the town manager in terms of the FY25 operating and CIP budget submittals, which is coming up the end of this month. And I think in some of the handouts that you have, just make sure. So for the FY25 budget, you have the memo that is going to the town manager from the director of finance and myself, and it lists.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that now.
Oh, you can do that then. Yes.
Just curious.
Okay, so we'll hold that one. Let's see. Well, we can hold CIP for them too.
The next thing we're cutting over
is the HVAC.
Yeah, done.
So you skipped over food services. Can you talk about what's going on with the food services?
From a financial standpoint? Okay. As far as I know from Ashley, we are fully staffed. We actually, she is looking to contract with an auditor to do, it's always good, I think, to do an audit when you have a change of, leadership. And last year, everything is still, every student still gets to have free lunch, free breakfast. And I think, I don't want to misspeak in terms of where they're at financially from last year. I mean, obviously it's coming off post-COVID, so you don't have a lot of comparisons, but I can have her send you something because I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen anything regarding.
Okay. So you want a financial? Yeah.
Yeah, we used to get that
yes,
report, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, well, it's free, and it's on reimbursement. So I don't know if we're getting reimbursed 100% or where we are on that.
And we're incurring costs, so.
Right, we're incurring costs, and if there's no real revenue coming in, other than, well, I don't know how many kids are buying extra, because as I understand it, you can still buy food if you don't like the free food.
In my experience, a lot of people actually buy like the little cookies and like I don't think it's soda. It's like, I don't know, it might be a seltzer water or something.
Water?
Yeah, I don't really drink.
Not be soda.
But like the smoothies and stuff, a lot of people buy those, I know. So there's definitely money going in and out, I guess you could say.
Right.
So.
But getting the actual numbers would be nice to see what.
Yeah. That'd be nice to see how many kids are actually participating.
Yeah.
In the program.
And
we used to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be good. Breakfast and lunch if possible.
Okay.
If I might speak about breakfast,
Yeah, please.
a lot of people do get breakfast, I know. I think that's really good because especially like sometimes seniors, wake up late, drive to school, traffic and stuff. They don't have time to eat breakfast. Oh, sorry. And the breakfast at school might be the only breakfast they have. So I definitely think a lot of people utilize the school breakfast.
So are they using that in the classroom or?
No, we aren't allowed to eat in the classroom. We just, it's, I believe, 8:10 to like 8:20, but really we allow people to leave before 8:20. They just eat in the cafeteria. So yeah.
I sometimes see them walking with it, but they are generally supposed to eat it in the cafeteria. Not a lot of time.
I'm looking for
It's hard to be a teenager.
They can open the door to the queue, we're going to say later.
challenge with, so teachers are required to be there at 8:10. Paraprofessionals are there at 8 o'clock. I mean, so there might be some wiggle room to look at. Everybody gets a supervision thing usually. Okay, so do you want to talk about the HVAC?
So yeah, I mean, I had asked, I guess just a little background, I had asked Ashley after the rather hot days, and the one half day, I was curious for an update on where we were at with our HVAC, project. I know we have some funds that are going to expire at the end of this month that we had earmarked for this, and so Ashley did put together this memo, so, so pretty interesting to read from where I sat. I don't know if any of you have thoughts on this, but I don't know if you want to go over it. We probably should go over it for those families and public to understand what we're looking at. So
Can you read it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I will read it. It's after experiencing several days of extremely high and unhealthy temperatures in our school buildings, prompting an early release day for students on September 7th, there is an increased urgency to complete the HVAC upgrade project for all 3 of our town-owned school buildings. We have 1,713 students and staff members spending 6.5 to 9 hours per day in our buildings, and we expect their working and learning environments to be on par with what employees experience in other town-owned buildings. As you know, in May of 2023, the voters of Mashpee approved spending approximately $6,400,000 from various funding sources to make HVAC infrastructure improvements at our 3 schools with a phased-in plan that has the work beginning at the Coombs School. The timeline for HVAC upgrades for the Coombs School is shown below. So on May 1st and May 6th was when the town voters voted. On August 23rd was when requests for proposals were issued for engineering and design services for the Coombs ventilation and air conditioning improvements.
Can you pause there for 1 second?
Yes.
That included the other town buildings that were also because this was lumped together, correct?
I do not believe that that it was inclusive of the other.
So this was solely for the Coombs School? Okay.
Yes.
So from May to August, right?
Yes, so on September 13th, the bid opening for, I think there were 5 vendors submitted proposals for the project. 3 were eligible for review based on the minimum requirements for submission. The proposals were reviewed by Assistant Town Manager Wayne Taylor, Director of Public Works Catherine Laurent, Facility Supervisor Brad Tripp, and Director of Finance Ashley Lopes. September 21st, which is tomorrow, interviews of the prospective engineering design firms, there's 3, will be conducted in the morning. Those are the people participating. And then on the 21st, they would expect to award a bid. Okay, good idea. So the project timeline based on some of the submissions, I'm pointing because they're on my desk, but third is when the project, October of 2023 is when the project begins. Then through October to November, they're going to survey the existing conditions, review findings, and discuss pros and cons. Then there's a period of December 23rd through February of 24, December of 2023, February of 2024, where they will develop design and cost estimate. February of 24, they issue the bid for construction, and in March of 24, they award the bid, and then the actual work would be summer of 2024 and beyond. I will say in some of the proposals, they expressed as these designers possibly concern about lead time for getting equipment, and it was more like a summer of 25 that the work would be started, and I was like, Anyway, at the bottom you have questions so what is the lead time for the equipment that needs to be purchased for installation? Significant work needs to take place during summer of 2024. I don't believe we should have to wait till 2025. Can the project timeline be tightened up or condensed? And why wasn't the RFP issued on July 1st? There was a 7.5 week delay in that. Everything seems to take so long, but it really And then we have to then schedule when the work gets done, which may or may not involve relocating students to partially it depends on what it looks like. And so, we do have, unlike sometimes other town buildings, we have, more opportune times for doing the bulk of the work. So.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on this? Again, I asked for this because I think the public needs to better understand the process. Unfortunately, with, municipal projects like this, it's not like we can just call up, Dave and Steve's HVAC saw us and have them put it on. Unfortunately, we have to go through this very detailed process. And I think it's important that our families and staff and faculty and everyone knows that this is something we have been working on, and it is at our forefront. However, we are kind of restricted by certain apparent dates here. So I don't know if anyone has any comments or wants to have any questions to add to this.
I didn't want to kind of second that. I really kind of started this process last summer. When there were there was COVID campus going on then, and running came to the school and saw how bad it was at that time. So again, it's not something that the committee or the superintendent is pushing off or the town is pushing off. This is a process takes a long time. Let the public does need to know that it's not something that's been delayed as far as time to act.
This is maybe a lot of the greater landscape and my viewpoint, but are there any other projects that are taking priority over this, or not priority, but something of the timeline that from a town perspective we just shifted to prioritize this project?
I can't speak to that. We have asked to have a meeting with myself and the town manager and Catherine Laurent and Ashley. I know that there were several other projects as part of the approved bond. It's my understanding that the town hall project has not started yet. They had something going on. I know the police, I don't think the police department has started yet either, and they had sort of a big system failure type of thing. So I don't know which projects have already made movement. It's a very slow process.
Can you also share about some fiscal challenges?
Yeah, and I don't know that Ashley captured that in this very much, but I know part of our funding we had earmarked was from ESSER funds that are due to expire the end of this month. So to finance, I did ask this at the finance working group because it was a concern of mine. If we're not able to use those funds, what does this all look like? And what are those funds going to be used for? Because I'd hate to see those funds not be used in an effective way when they were given to us. And we had really kind of crafted the project with those funds in mind. So it does change the landscape a little bit. How drastically, I'm not totally sure, and I think Ashley will probably have a better idea once that discussion happens. I think my question also was, why wasn't the RFP issued sooner than August 23rd, I guess, in my other. I know they take time to craft, but that does seem like a long time to go. I don't know what other projects were going on, but again, this was for us to brush up on where we're at, but also, again, so the community knows that we are aware of the challenges that our students, faculty, and staff are facing in these buildings, and the upgrades, we have to go through this process, and unfortunately it is a lengthy process, but hopefully summer of 2025 is just a nasty rumor and not something that will become a reality, because I don't know that that's acceptable either. But
we talked a little bit about the challenge of the CIP process in the charter. So the CIP now, what we understand it, you can't bring a project before special town meetings, so nothing can really start till July 1st. Even if we have the funding source, say ESSER, if it's of a certain value, it still has to go through CIP, get approval by the town, than spending. So one of the things we want to, and we had quotes from last spring, is applying this film to our glass areas, which makes it sort of much more bulletproof, based on the school intruder down south that basically just went right through the double glass vestibule. Coombs School has a lot of glass. So we have 3 separate estimates. You know, one is like, one school's about 12, one's 16, but Coombs is like 37. And so collectively, I talked to the town manager, he said, yeah, collectively. But before ESSER money expires, we could do that separately, individually, and none of them, well, Coombs would be higher than 25,000. Also, whether that amount is too low to look at, because I think procurement now is like 100,000 in terms of having to go out. So there's so many layers in it that really sort of tie your hands, even though we have a lot of things we could do. You can't, you have to follow the process. So.
Well, is the film that you're talking about reflective, so that it reflects some of this in?
Well, we already did reflective coating at Coombs on a lot of their windows for that. This is not reflective, it just makes it so that it doesn't allow a person to walk through easily if they shoot it.
But if there was an emergency, the fire department would be able to get through it?
Yes, we met with everyone involved, the police and fire were supportive of this. We actually had the gentleman from the company come down and do a presentation with that group so that everybody was comfortable. Other towns have done, Falmouth has some of it, they've done it in stages. And I hate to always, it feels like sometimes we're reactionary, so okay, here's the scenario that happened down south. We didn't really think about that, so now we want to make sure we do something about that, which feels reactive, but a little proactive. It's definitely happening.
I guess the other question on this HVAC is, we talk a lot about Casey Coombs, but what are we doing when we're going to the other 2 schools and we're not moving inside of that?
They're all part of that bond. It was meant because, remember the first quote was like 26 million, like ridiculous. And then based on other input they collected, it was much more reasonable. So I think they feel that the 6.4 million, they would be able to accommodate the 3 schools.
But, I'm sorry.
Well, and that's fine, I guess, we're doing it as a piecemeal.
Well, we're starting at one school.
We're starting at one school. Why are we not doing this for all 3 schools?
Yeah, why wasn't the RFP for all 3? Is that what you're?
Well, yeah, that's one of the questions. I mean,
Well, why not issue an RFP now for the other 2 schools?
or be in the process,
Yeah.
because I don't see a timeline related to that, because, high school is, that's hot and hot.
Yeah, upstairs.
And so, if it's gonna take 2 years to do a piece of Coombs, I don't want us to wait 2 years and then decide we're gonna do the next building and then wait another 2 years.
I don't even know if it's wait, it's just like a process.
And there's,
I agree.
Could Catherine give an update on that?
because it seems like there should be a project manager that's being hired that's running these for the town. Everything's not running on Catherine's desk.
Did they hire an OPM for this?
I don't think so.
You have that question?
Tomorrow I would be able to ask that at the meeting.
Okay.
So, I'd like to know where we are, because the weather's not getting any better.
And yeah, I mean, we're saying summer, but I mean, honestly, the heat's gonna kick back up April, May. Like we're gonna be looking at May, everybody's gonna be back to lethargic and miserable, so.
Oh, we'll be back to half days.
Yeah, or we'll be back to half days, yeah. Unless we can shift courses to the beach.
Probably a lot of students wouldn't mind that, right?
There's not enough time on learning. Can't have any of
It's
those.
experiential learning, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, did you run to a Saturday?
half day Wednesday, half day Saturday. Is that what you're, like the European model, Tom? Is that where we're going?
We have those, I don't know if I'm totally making this up, but we had tents for outside.
Yes.
Right? Would that be a possibility for teachers if they feel their classroom's too hot?
So we have, that last I knew, we only had one canvas cover, the other two got damaged. And then.
In storage or?
No.
Because we bought those for COVID, during COVID, right?
They
Those were.
They weren't
The
taken
one
down.
storm we
It was
had.
a storm.
Oh, they weren't taken down ahead of the storm? Okay.
And then I guess it becomes sort of, I'm not sure with Ashley's conversation, where that lands. So then classes. But yes, there are structures at all three schools for tented outside learning areas.
Well, thank you for the update, and again, if anybody watching or families do have questions about it, you know, you can reach out to us, but the DPW and town manager may also be able to answer questions you have on this project, as they're the ones who kind of spearhead it. Work with them, but it is not something we control completely, and I guess that was the other thing I would like people to understand as well. So, anything else, any other questions on finance? You know, Ashley's not here, but I'm sure if you email her, she will get back to you. All right, subcommittees and working group updates. Negotiation subcommittee. Don, do you have anything to share on your recent meeting?
No.
No?
I'm on the schedule.
Okay, finance working group, we met this past Monday. We reviewed, I think that is what's a little later on with Ashley's operating budget memo. I think it's one of the additional handouts, right?
Yeah, it might have been in the packet, but you did get, or maybe not in the packet.
No, it was
That was not in the packet. So the memo that's dated the 27th from Ashley and myself going to the town manager does talk about our FY25 operating budget, that it provides the current level of education service to all Mashpee students and includes all known increases to contractual obligations, both salary and non-salary, and it reflects the following assumptions. Mashpee Public Schools is planning to offset the FY25 operating budget with school choice funds, program funds, in the amount of $757,228. The offset is shown on the attached budget summary sheet. It reflects the implementation of year 4 of our Mashpee Public Schools 4-year strategic plan, our plan for success. It reflects increases in non-salary expenditures related to Mashpee Public Schools contractual obligations for FY25, the example being transportation costs. It also reflects the technology capital requests in the amount of $50,000 have been included in the budget. We have also included them in our FY25 CIP requests, and if CIP approves it, we will remove the $50,000 from our proposed FY25 budget of $25,277,597. So with that removal, it is an increase of $923,417 over our FY24 budget, which is a 3.79% increase. The Mashpee Public Schools FY25 budget also assumes that ongoing practices and protocols to maintain facilities that are healthy and safe for our staff and students will be funded through the FY25 DPW operating budget, and those examples of that are adequate staffing for custodians and maintenance, the MERV 13 filters that came into play during COVID, hand sanitizer, sanitizing wipes, disinfectant. And the FY25 operating budget has to be entered into Munis by the end of this month, which is when I think Munis is down, so anyway, it's around the 29th, I believe.
Any questions on this or on the proposed CIP? The CIP memo is also included, and the list of CIP requests are there as well, so you can see that.
The only question that I had was, so our Chromebooks were leased but we're purchasing PCs versus leasing them. But I thought some of our Chromebooks were purchased, at least initially.
I thought he had switched in the last several years to leasing.
Well, I think so. I mean, I think there's some older ones, because I had asked Ashley and she was checking on it. There is a built-in obsolescence on Chromebooks.
Yes.
Where at some point the operating system will no longer work. To some people's surprise. And so I didn't know if we had those, but I guess I don't understand why we're not leasing the other PCs also.
The PCs that like teachers use?
Yeah.
Check.
That was much cost effective.
And do they even offer leasing programs, I guess is my question. I know with Chromebooks, definitely, that is something definitely to look into.
I will ask.
Because that way, it can be an active replacement cycle for those versus doing a lump sum every 5 years or whatever it is.
You can see the total quote there on the safety and security window film.
The other question that I had is in regard to, we've been allocating $25,000 a year to current service upgrades. What have we been doing?
I did ask Ashley that, and she said that they did spend that money. So she can tell you what, I asked that question too. You can see on FY25 as a placeholder, not a fully functioning, wide road, but we're looking to have it put on everyone's radar to have a road that would only be used by buses between the two schools. Similar to that, it is technically a road that comes down from the police station. It's like the width of one lane, but they use it in emergencies. Something like that would allow a better sort of movement. I asked Kathy sometimes when they have extra paving money, like that's how the Washington parking lot was done years ago, there was extra road paving money, and so they're like, okay, let's fix this. We would like to really explore that as an option. We do have through DESE, it's a free consulting that they come down and they're going to analyze all of our bus routes, our dismissals, arrivals, everything, and then they will do it's for free, and they'll produce a report of recommendations. So we just want, because we always hear that something needs to be on here, so they know about it. So we've now established that that is something that we do think would make a difference in terms of the whole combined bus routes. It could be that the consulting firm comes back and says combined bus routes aren't the way to go. Maybe you have 6 buses that do Coombs and 6 buses that do Quash. They might move around each other, but because right now when Quash kids get on the bus, sometimes it's a half an hour until they get over there to get loaded. And that's a long time of children who at the end of the day are hot, don't have a lot of patience, they're tired, and social skills sometimes can be lacking. So we're exposing them to challenging situations. I think adults would not be able to hold it together either. So as part of looking at the whole dismissal, we're not experts, but we're doing the best we can to look at it, but this might be something to consider as well. So it somehow became a non-leaving problem post-COVID. We never had these problems before COVID, but I think families got used to the car transportation ritual, and they don't like giving it up. I don't know how it is. I mean, in some cases, we have some cars that arrive here, dismissals at 3:35. Those cars, and no judgment, I don't know, maybe they're getting a lot of work done, but they're like an hour and 10 minutes earlier than school even releases. So, it's just, everyone's different than prior to COVID in terms of their own sort of habits and practices.
At the high school, I believe we have that people are not supposed to be idling.
At all schools.
At all schools.
At all schools? I don't see I guess I didn't see a sign.
Oh, no, idling
Yeah.
sign? I thought I've seen it, but I'll look.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments?
Well, the only, I guess it's a little bit of a tangent, but bringing up the traffic pattern piece with the buses, is there an opportunity to just kind of consider, maybe with, again, not trying to create ideas here, but with our SRO of figuring out like prioritizing that transit from school to school, whether that be, I know, like, I think of like commencement at a college where you
Hold cars.
You hold cars for those 4 or 5 minutes and then, bypass them to be able to load and to unload. Things of that sort, because it is very grueling, and not only does it obviously impact the students using the service, but then the lines of families waiting to pick up as well.
Well, and it literally can be very dangerous on Barnstable Road because you
Correct.
have the non-school connected travelers who get angry and they're in a rush. I feel like, and I've said it in my Friday, like if all the cars could sort of pretend the bus is an ambulance, like pull over, and let them go. But we have asked for police support through the SRO as well as through the police department because we don't really need an SRO on the campuses. It's out there that it's just, like you say, it's having buses that have to go by the exit of Quash, and those people are going left and right. And they're waiting to get in, and they're waiting to get into Coombs. And, I've looked at whether maybe we should have the buses all go to Coombs first, load, come out, and then go in at the only entrance that is a bus entrance here, go that way. We've looked at a different direction, but then the bus doors are on the wrong side of Quash, like if they came this way and went. And then, in a perfect world, if we had more drivers, we would have more options, but it's tight there too. It's very, it consumes a lot of thoughts. Anything else?
All right. Outreach working group. Matt, I believe that's you.
Yeah, me and Brian were on with Patty. Was that yesterday? It's all over now. Was that yesterday or Monday?
It was the rainy day.
Yeah, Monday then, right?
Monday
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And you have a summary of the handout with the red
Yeah.
that you're looking at.
Yeah, so, we talked of, like having that outreach Zoom, where the public would kind of meet on a Zoom with like 2 school committee members, and we take turns, going over different themes and like giving the public, like another opportunity other than just the public comment section of the school committee meetings. And some of the themes we thought of starting with was, as we talked in our goals of, educating the community on like what the role of the school committee is, role of the superintendent, having those be like some of the themes to start with, and then budget. And I was talking about kind of making some of these things strategic, so like as different topics are coming up, like the budget, that would be an opportunity for the public to reach out to us about like what we're kind of supporting and what is going on with the budget and what we're pushing with that. Superintendent evaluation, reflection, planning forward, and again, this would be like a revolving like 2 members because I know we all have other subcommittees. Yeah, and then Patty was talking about how like she's been using the color yellow to include a link for in her Friday communications about school committee meetings, and it's a bunch of information about like the school committee or about like what we've covered in the meeting. Let's see.
I did like this week's how you had it kind of at the top, very simple.
With the agenda.
Like, yes, I liked that, and I think that's probably the best way to go because it's very just, here's the upcoming agenda, click here.
And we talked about that too, is like if that's a new thing that we have and like that becomes like a regular, like people know to go there for that information, and that just becomes part of the culture of like, okay, that's where you gotta get that information about that. Let's see, talked about the handouts. Let's see, minutes and recorded video are shared with stakeholders through superintendent's prior communication. We also talked about like after the meetings, instead of maybe necessarily having a video, like maybe it's just like a like summary of like, the main topics that were covered, or like what points, what time that was in like the, the meeting, with the agenda. I don't know if you want to talk about that number 4 on the special section in Friday.
Well,
that
just
was what we just talked about.
Yeah, so this Friday we'll have a section in it, and then also, I think I wrote that down in here, I have a schedule with Mashpee Enterprise for the monthly articles. And so I picked dates that would allow me, knowing, like I have to turn my stuff in on a Tuesday, I picked dates that were following the school committee meeting. So again, I'm gonna try to have like a box section at school committee. So that'll be in the 29th is the one that's gonna appear. And then we did talk about having members get interviewed either by students on the Mashpee Minute or through Mashpee TV, where you can have them interview you on topics, and obviously somewhat pre-planned at that stage, but
we talked about, we got to update some of the biographies, mine for one, and then, let's see, the trifold, updating it with a new picture of the 5 of us, since Tammy got you added onto the group. Let's see, there should be a link
Looks
to
like everyone needs to do their bios.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
Don.
Myers.
Unless he needs to
Could be
update
since
his.
He's been on here 11
Yeah,
years.
he might want to review it and update
Oh,
it.
yeah, you gotta make sure it says what you do now. But like I said to Matt, you don't have to talk about what you do, because he's in a more sensitive field. So whatever you choose, just a little like human interest kind of spot on there. So that.
I see you left that due date blank though.
Well, no, so that one thing to say is these proposed dates for action step 1 here is for you as a committee to decide if those are good dates. Those are dates that I'm proposing, but it's not, and I'll be there on the Zoom, but it's really, I'm not a member of the school committee. And then just starting on a due date for bios, that's also you as a group need to give me the date you want to hold everybody to.
So since there was no kind of vote on this, can we please add this, I guess, to our next meeting for a vote to approve this plan that we're looking at tonight?
Yeah.
And that was like kind of part of it too, is like, because we had talked about like some of those Zoom meetings, kind of like getting you guys to have that, like, where we have the subcommittee meeting, like you guys all, as the rest of the committee, getting that information before you're coming into like hey, let's talk about this now, let's vote. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right procedure, so. Okay. Any questions or comments?
And I did share the Google spreadsheet number 2 on the back page. This is just a hard copy, but if you were looking, so it's a spreadsheet by month. And at a glance, if you just want to, like for your planning purposes, I will tell you that the big month is May. There's a lot going on. So these are things not that you could choose to go to if you want. Some of them are community, some of them are school. It's just one place. I will keep resharing it regularly, probably monthly. If you go to something, just put an X under your name. Or if you think you're going to go so that, okay, somebody's going, I won't go to that one.
And we'll be able to edit that as well, because
Yeah,
we do like mass learning.
You are all editors of this.
So anytime you do a mass learning lunch, any type of additional, anything that is pertinent to our.
So down below this, we'll put a section for you to write in something that you did that's related to your roles. So we can capture that.
Thank you.
Did you get that, Mrs.
I think that was the other part too, is like, Brian had a good point of like pointing out, Heidi was gonna like highlight things that she felt like, were like a little more important for like if we can get to, like, get a member to at least on the calendar. Because like, every event is important, but there are some that like, we might have like more of an audience or an opportunity to engage with like, members of the community. Yeah, or student body, yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you all who do that work on the subcommittees and working groups. I know it's a little extra, but thank you. Specifically assigned unfinished business, policy BEDH. It's the second read of public comment at school committee meetings, pages 17 and 18 in the packet. So you have before you, we did a first read at last month's meeting. We gave some time for people to kind of digest, think about, consider, offer any other edits. I guess we can entertain a motion to approve it with the edits as presented. The edits are in red. So that's what will be changed. And I believe Sarah has, our school committee council has taken a look at this. And made her comments as well. And this is in accordance to the, latest ruling on public comment, which is not required, but I do feel, and I think many of you also feel, we do need to include in our meetings,
So Madam Chair, just a question.
Sure.
In regard to item number 7, which is added here on the back page. In order to allow a peaceful and orderly meeting, no person may offer comment without permission of the chair. All persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. That's putting the onus on the chair then to recognize people to speak. They're not doing that. They haven't been doing that for a while. So are you proposing that you would be starting to do that?
I know we as a committee are a little bit more informal when we're recognizing each other during public comment, and I believe this policy pertains specifically to public comment at school committee meetings, which tonight we did have a sign-in sheet and each person was recognized individually. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question on that one.
So this will.
I believe this one was added by Sarah. This was not something we added. This was, that particular one was put in there by by Sarah and her legal expertise.
So you're saying it's only going to, because
this policy specifically pertains to public comment at school committee meetings. So if a member of the public may not offer comment without permission of the chair, which is why we have the sign-up sheet, and then we orderly call them up to avoid everyone speaking at once, basically.
I mean, you could stick the word public in front of, so it could say, in order to allow a peaceful and orderly meeting, no person may offer public comment without permission of the chair.
I think it could be comment because I think, the chair does reserve the right to open public comment on agenda items at any time. So if they so choose, whether it's myself or, anyone who sits as chair, you are able to open, if we wanted to open public comment on the Director of Finance's budget update, we could. But they would need to be recognized by the chair in order to make that comment.
That's correct, they would. So you're saying that this will only relate to the public comment that takes place during the designated public comment session, or does this apply if you request public comment on any agenda item?
I'm not sure I see the difference between a public comment in my mind as public comment. So whether it's public comment in a specific section of the agenda versus an agenda item that has been opened up to allow for public comment, in my mind, they are the same. But if you have an argument that might explain them as two separate, I'm open to listening and
No, I'm just trying to understand if these rules would apply at that point or not.
My inclination would be yes, but if I don't know if other board members have thoughts on this as well.
So they would be limited to 5 minutes.
If they're going to be, if public comment is opened on an agenda item, yes, their comments would fall under the same parameters as our public comment section, because it technically would be an additional public comment section, I guess. So, I don't know. Anyone else have thoughts on that? I know I'm doing a lot of the talking, but if somebody else has thoughts on this?
I think that's the way I interpreted it as well. Yes.
Because when you open it for public comment during an agenda item, those tend to be more discussion oriented. and not just a person speaking. So for example, when Mary Kate just spoke a few minutes ago, that would fall under this guideline, which in theory, then I could not ask her a question in regard to the water quality.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
So I'm just want to make sure that this is not limiting our ability to have robust discussions that we need to be able to have, and that this is only applying to hearing
To the specific-
individuals that are providing information or input at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, because I feel like number one kind of covers that, it like, kind of like identifies that this is specifically to that public comment section that is identified on the agenda as the public comment section. But it's like at the start of each regularly scheduled school committee meeting, individuals who have signed up to speak. So like if you follow like the line of like, because if you took that line out just as itself standalone, that would make, I could see the logic, but I think that if you take it to the scope of the entire document, of like this being the policy of the actual like public comment agenda item, because I think that's what the policy is trying to address here.
So it would preclude then, the way you're interpreting it is that it would preclude anything that we do open up as an agenda item for public comment for discussion. Perhaps the chair would have to say and specify that if an agenda item, not public comment, was opened up for discussion, that it would be open for discussion, yes.
Because it's kind of like, it identifies in part one, like what they're talking about for like public comment, like, you know, at the start of each regularly scheduled school committee meeting, with members who have, individuals who have signed up to speak at will be invited to address the committee during 15-minute public comment. So like it's kind of identifying in that first block that like this is what we're talking about with this policy.
Well, that's why I
get what you're saying, it's a clarify.
To those other just two, so you're saying it's not, you're saying it does.
Well, with Matt's explanation and looking at that, I mean, I would say then Matt's explanation makes more, it is probably more clear. I mean, we can have Sarah,
If we want to take another peek to like, you know.
or to clarify, but I do think Matt's probably correct where it is saying that. I hadn't considered, you know, if we did open up agenda items as a new.
Yeah, because like I wouldn't want to shut that down. I wouldn't want that dialogue, you know. Yeah. Like to your point, like I wouldn't want that to be a shut. Like you should be able to have that dialogue.
Yeah. Engage those speakers.
So if we take it then as it's written, it would solely apply to that specific section in the agenda. I stand corrected.
I'd make it a motion to approve it if that's the interpretation, and if we like, we could always readdress this if Sarah came back and said, oh no, that applies to all, you know, and then we could like, you know, rescind or like, you know, have another vote to go back to the table on that. You know, because I would never want to like not like step into like refraining from having dialogue otherwise.
And there's a motion on the table to approve the policy BEDH as amended and presented tonight. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
So, I guess I'm hesitant to approve something if there's a question in regard to how it's going to be applied and if there's potential it's going to be amended. Why not get the question answered? This isn't a time-sensitive
I get it.
item, so I would feel more comfortable that we get that clarification from Sarah and then address it at the next meeting. That was just my thoughts.
So with those comments, do you wish to keep the motion or withdraw?
I'll withdraw, yeah.
And you want her to clarify number 7.
And whether or not it pertains to
The entire
any
meeting.
open comment or if it pertains specifically to the agenda, like, you know, to to that agenda item, as opposed to if we open up another item for public.
That's just fine, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that we'll be seeing that again next month. New business, Mashpee Charter Review Committee update. Don, do you want to take this one, or you want me to take it?
So, I'll just put my 2 cents in and then you can
Sure.
add. The Charter Review Committees has finally gotten through a first look at all sections and has had some robust discussions in regard to potential changes. A lot of it is, from my perspective, is housekeeping. We no longer have a board of selectmen, so it's a select board that is, wherever that occurs, that has to be changed. So those are really not any substantive changes. There are some substantive things that are going to be looked at. I would say it's a relatively small number. Off the top of my head, one of the things that we're looking at is potentially adding a preamble to the charter, specifically related to the Mashpee tribe and the history of the tribe as it relates to the town. We're looking at also whether some currently elected positions should be not elected, should be appointed, potentially term limits are being considered. I think those offhand are how we do a search for a new town manager. That process now is by committee, whether that should continue to be that way or maybe be done by the select board itself. Those are the most significant ones that I can think of. Offhand, look out if you have some other things that you want to have.
I think, Don summed it up pretty nicely. We've been working pretty cohesively, I feel. Really good discussions, lots of, the group on charter review is a pretty diverse group, I feel, in terms of our backgrounds. So I feel like, we're getting an interesting perspective of people in the town. Granted, we're all kind of working on boards and committees like this or have knowledge of how it works. We are always welcoming public comment and the public's opinions and thoughts on that as well. I think in the items that pertain to school and school committee, we have talked about budget timelines and perhaps expanding that because, with Ashley, when we submit our budget, the state hasn't yet released its funding. So perhaps if the budget was, we've talked about the timing of that. And we're not the only department that has expressed perhaps a different timeline for when everything is submitted. And I know in talks, in other discussions, CIP requests, that process as well as, now I'm blanking on it. It'll come to me and I'm totally blanking on it and I'm sorry, but it's been really productive, I think, and like Don said, we've made it through the first pass. We're about to kind of dig into, look at some of the more substantial things that we've kind of put in the parking lot. We are going to have a legal review of it, an outside third party, not our town council, but someone additional to our town council likely review this if needed, just to get another perspective and make sure we're aligned with other municipalities that are similar to Mashpee. So yeah, that's where that's at. Any questions? Okay. I guess we have our district upcoming events next.
Yeah, I just want to highlight tomorrow night's open house. The Southport Falcons bus tours and you have a schedule separately. That's on Friday, and apparently I do believe there's 2 members of the select board that are joining us, Michaela and also Carol. And then I believe the executive director of the chamber is joining us. Anyway, it's fun event. Monday's an early release day for everyone. Quashnet open house next Thursday evening. As Cameron Greendeer talked about, Orange Shirt Day in all of our schools. There's information about that in my weekly communication. All students and staff are encouraged to wear an orange shirt. Then on Saturday, there is additional event. There's the Rotary piece followed by a community event at the Tribal Government Center. And then the only other thing I was highlighting was on the 5th of October, the MMHS Red Cross Youth Club is having a blood drive in the auditorium. If you would like to donate blood to that, that's pretty much what I started to make sure you're aware of.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right.
Town meeting is actually at 7, not 6, as it says in the agenda. Unless you want to have a pre-meeting.
If you want to get good parking. Get good parking at there at 7. But it starts at 7, all right. And then I believe if you haven't already, you should have gotten emails from MASC letting us know in the flyer. Should have been mailed to you for the upcoming joint MASC-MASS conference in Hyannis. I took a look at what's being offered this year. There looks like some pretty interesting workshops. And then in our October...
Did you register people? Who's registered?
Just Kathy, I think I registered.
So if anyone does want to go.
And you don't have to go to all 3 days. You can do just one. You can do half a day. You can... but the biggest thing, and I know I've done it for the last 2 years, is on Wednesday is the resolution, is when the resolution. So at our next meeting, we'll probably be voting on who will represent the school committee. We'll be voting on those resolutions and where we stand. So I believe those have been distributed, or if they haven't, they will be for you to review. And they were in the item. And Andrew, if you haven't gotten that either, we'll make sure you get a copy because your input would be good on those as well.
It said mid-September when I went on the MASC site, they weren't there yet. So as soon as we get
I think I got an email today from Jason, who's on the who is the policy and policy subcommittee for MASC. I believe they're getting ready to distribute them. So at our next meeting, we'll talk about what they are, what are, how we want to vote on them, and then we'll be selecting who will be, if anybody will be able to attend, other than myself.
Did we last year get those in advance so we could
And we had amendments done, we had some amendments and I stood up and offered them and they didn't get passed or added, but they were presented to the body as a whole, and it's really, it's kind of like what we want to put forward to the state legislature for school and education-based initiatives. So it's kind of good work and just usually interesting stuff. So and the speakers are usually really good too. Like Wednesday night's going to be the commissioner, DESE commissioner, and then Thursday night is the teacher of the year, and then I don't usually stay for Friday night, but that's the president's reception and all that stuff.
It's interesting that it's shifted. It's always usually that first week of
Yeah,
November, which kind of is. Yeah. But like the 10th is in Veterans Day recognition in terms of schools are closed. It's like a really big
Well, and this year's theme, what is this year's theme again? It's diversity. I think it's focusing on diversity, I think. It's what should be on the very first page. Yeah, either way. Look for it if you haven't seen it. If you want to register, talk to Sherry. It's usually a pretty great time to workshop and collaborate with our fellow school committee members from across the state. So, last but by no means least, items the chair did not reasonably know in advance. Okay, so I'm going to use this moment for a quick second. We did have some public comment tonight on a program that is offered through the rec department, if I'm not mistaken. I know I saw Mary Bradbury here earlier. I kind of wish she did, and I know it's a long meeting and that's probably why she didn't stick around, but my understanding is that program is offered through the rec department. And the school does distribute the rec department flyer as a whole. Like the offerings of the rec department collectively are distributed to every student through Patty's Friday communication, but also they do provide handouts as well, correct?
They've had booklets in the past.
And I know they have a very robust social media presence as well. So some of the comments I kind of wish she had left them so we could review exactly, you know, I took notes. I don't know if you have comments, concerns, questions, but I do want to point out that the school does distribute those through the rec department as opposed to an individual flyer for each program offered by the rec department. That's not to say that if we as a committee would like to, you know, we don't really have a formal policy on flyers. It's typically always been, you know, nonprofit organizations, you know, and there was some confusion. Some of the comments were a little confusing to me because it sounded like they thought the school was running that program, and I don't believe, you know, from my understanding, it's a rec department thing that utilizes the school building. I don't know that the school has ever officially supported or come out in support of any of the programs that utilize the schools other than to say, yes, this is where they meet. That being said, understanding the sentiment of representation and equity and inclusion, I don't want to be insensitive to that. However, I do want to make sure that what we are doing in terms of our policies for flyers is equitable, inclusive, and not, I guess just equitable and inclusive. I don't want to see us singling out, but again, keeping in mind the nature of programs and how we've done it in the past. Yes, there are some nonprofits that send out individual flyers, but they're not represented through the Mashpee Rec. So I'm going to open it up if anybody else has any other comments. I guess those were my thoughts on what was discussed tonight. Andrew, feel free to chime in too, but Patty, if you have anything to add to this.
So all I wanted to say is that in my emails to Victoria, I told her, like, I understand the program, I support the program, but we do not, so if it were a Mashpee Public Schools, so she was asking for approval of her program, it felt like. That, there's a vetting process for that because our name is on it. And so it would go through Hope and, you know, is there research behind it? We just wouldn't necessarily offer any program. I support these opportunities for our kids. We have a pretty robust after-school program that our teachers offer at both schools. We always support what Mary Bradbury offers. So when it came, it was different in that she was asking for approval of this flyer. I mean, there were errors in it and whatever. I know there had been some social media chit-chat. I do think it seems to be a very productive, positive opportunity for girls. Am I going to put the Mashpee Public Schools stamp of approval on it? No, but we would support it through the rec department. So it's taken on sort of a different, life of its own, but flyers come to me for approval, whether it's Boys and Girls Club, it's Girl Scouts, whatever flyers come to me, we look at them. We've had them from businesses in town, and now I will say, are you a for-profit? Because we're not allowed to provide access to our town resources for profit.
And that's a state ethics.
We do that every year. Our resources are access to our children, which I don't know whether they had to pay to participate or not. If a flyer had come broadly showing Mashpee Rec Department to generate interest in the program and Mashpee Rec was behind it, I don't have to answer questions about it. I don't have to say, what's the research behind it? What's the curriculum? What are all those things? That's the Mashpee Rec thing. That's fine. That's not how it was sort of evolving. And I did say that I fully support, on a personal level, it seems like a good program. We always support the Mashpee Rec with all of their different programming. I assume they do the vetting. Many people offer programs to the Mashpee Rec. I don't look into any of them. Like, it's not my thing. It's their thing. It's their umbrella. It's their responsibility. So it's a little bit of a blurred line as asking for school committee approval of this program. I think they want to ask, do you want to direct me to release the flyer? And I want it to be clearly, dominantly edited to Mashpee Rec. That would be different. But it's not, and I understand a lot of what they both said, or all of them said, but it's not that layered in terms of what the ask is.
It's not a school program, I guess.
Well, I guess I'm confused because she stated that we had withdrawn support for the program. So was there no, I don't know what we were doing before.
That's where I was hoping Mary Bradbury, like in hindsight, I should have waited for her.
So if the issue is we didn't permit the flyer to be distributed, is that what did happen?
Yes, in the format that she had originally. When it first came, there was no like, hey, I'm under the rec department. It wasn't dominantly something that sort of jumped out at you. So what she's asking for is to be able to publicize it better through a flyer, whether it's copied and goes home and girls, boys, I don't know if there's a gender issue of who participates in their flyers to generate interest, because while it ran in the summer, I don't know if it has more competition now as well, because there are many things at both schools that might, and there's other, there's Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and all that.
But also in the rec department, I guess my other thought, have we ever done flyers for individual rec department programs? In my recollection, I don't remember seeing individual flyers, like for Oktoberfest or for like town-wide events, but for programs that are geared, specific, I don't know. I could be wrong, and maybe Mary Bradbury, maybe we can reach out to her and find out, have they submitted them in the past? I don't recall them for individual programs. I recall the booklet, I recall links, I recall those types of things. I could be mistaken, but I don't recall specifically individual. I guess that's where I'm looking at a gray area, but.
To me, it doesn't matter, whether it was individual or part of the book. I mean, as long as it was clearly delineated that it was a Mashpee Rec program and not, a school program.
I think they have, like Mary Bradbury has an assistant now who's pretty skilled. I feel like they need a clear label that when you see it just tells you this is Mashpee Rec. And then it can have all the stuff below it, but there's like a header that is prominently displayed on all the flyers. And we don't produce the flyers. We will obviously sometimes, put it in my Friday communication as a visual. And then sometimes they'll say, well, how many sets of 20 do you need? And they are responsible for providing those to the schools. I think for me, if it was something that came through Mary Bradbury, having been approved, there should not be any errors on the flyers or whatever, that would be different. And then I'm not going to go to the level of vetting myself each of those, because I'm going to feel like it's been vetted.
Okay, sorry.
Well, it just seems to me that we need to have a clear-cut operating policies that, someone submits something, we can say, this is what the policy is. Does it fit or does it not?
Well, it's only mentioned in one, whatever one I sent you today. And basically the line in there, it talks about advertising in schools, and it's really the one about, not hanging, Jiffy Lube signs somewhere, whatever. But there was one line in it that said flyers are approved by the superintendent. That's it. There's no descriptive.
Yeah. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about a school committee policy.
You're kind of getting to where I was
I'm
thinking,
talking
but
about an operating policy that you would have as superintendent, so that you can say, this is what our operating policy is. It needs to fit this requirement.
So currently we have policy JP, student gifts and solicitations, which says any organization desiring to distribute flyers or other materials to students in connection with fund drives, so it's specific to fund drives, may only do so with approval of the superintendent. However, it does cross-reference KHB advertising in the schools and KHA public solicitations in the schools. So, but where it's a town, those are the two policies we have, but you're asking for her to develop in tangent with those policies and operational.
Or at least an expansion or building off of that original policy to be a little bit more explicit.
Yeah, because we don't need to develop an operating policy. The superintendent can develop the operating policy.
But I guess my question is, do we want a better defined policy than what we currently have?
I don't think it's that confusing. But if we do, then send it back to the policy subcommittee for review.
Thanks. It's me and Matt. Let me and Matt.
Yeah, so I
It's all
guess
good.
with
Dan,
regard
that's
to
over here. Okay, Dan, you had
no, just
comments?
with regard to action steps, or just kind of closing the loop on what was shared tonight. So it sounds like what I'm hearing, that from a committee budgetary fiscal standpoint, we had no, we did not have any fiscal responsibility to the program as it has been identified. So there, at least from that standpoint, it doesn't seem as though we withdrew support from anything. Is that correct in my understanding? Okay, and then the other, so then it also sounds like a part of this would just be providing guidance for appropriate channels for communicating, because I know that it seems like there's an opportunity to do this in an appropriate manner. Giving that guidance seems to be the right direction. And then the other piece that I think goes beyond just the flyer itself or the program itself is the I guess sentiment related to inclusivity, right? And how I couldn't quite connect the dots of how this
I think
connected to that.
I think the way I understood it, and I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on this, but the way I understood it was the lack of submitting the flyer was exclusive, is how I understood their comments. Again, not having one, just going off my notes from it. However, it wasn't something the school, and then there's that other piece of the school appearing to operate it when it really is a separate entity from the school, so that was the only connection I was able to make. I mean, again, I understand representation matters. It is very important, and I think we as a committee understand that and strive, and our goals. I mean, they did their homework. They were telling us what goals we had that were and I appreciate them going into that detail. But I think that's how I connected them. I don't know if any of you had a different connection there, but that was the gist I got. So, and I don't want to lose sight of that sentiment, because if that is something that is felt, that is something that is felt, and we don't want our families feeling that way, but we also need to make sure we're.
Well, she did raise a question, a point at the very beginning in regard to Latino representation. I don't know how big Latino population is at the school. I guess that would be something interesting to see if we could get a diversity breakdown of our current student population.
Yeah, Jessica does that.
I think she feels that not approving or distributing the flyer created a barrier for participation, because the word was not getting out. I don't know how the word gets out. I don't know how the word got out when it ran in the summer, but I do think that our not distributing the flyer felt like we put up a barrier to participation in the program.
And again, I guess I go back to, have we in the past done additional distribution of Mashpee Rec programs? If so, how and what? I mean, usually Mashpee Rec is the one who promotes their programming, not I mean.
So it sounds like dependent on the channel of how that communication came through. The outcome could have been completely different, right? And maybe I'm misreading the room, but it sounds like it needed, as you said, Patty, to be predominantly driven by the rec center, right? And their communication of this program as it stands underneath their umbrella.
Yeah, because I don't know what they do when everyone comes forward with a proposed program to offer. What do they do to generate enrollment in the program?
Right.
So we could probably follow up with Mary Bradbury too and find out, you know, if there's ways, like you said, if they do feel, you know, I don't know, figure out a way to communicate with the two departments of if she sees or she has an instructor who feels they need additional distribution of or highlighting of, but I think if I'm understanding what I'm hearing, the consensus is it should come from the rec department to the superintendent as opposed from an individual facilitator or instructor to the superintendent. Like that, it should go through a proper channel, like you said. It should.
If it's a rec program, that would be my sense.
Which is Dawn's point of an operational policy that kind of outlines that communication flow.
And I mean, I in talking, I think it's coming up with a plan with Mary Bradbury because they do put out their booklet and things like that, but I do not want to become sort of this communication venue for flyer after flyer of individual programs. That's not, we don't have time for that. That is their job to make sure.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like advertising that, like, here's the link to Master Rec for other opportunities.
Yeah, which I love
Which
to put that
she
in.
does.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, like, why would we, like, each individual group that decides that, like, they want theirs to be highlighted more than the others, like, you know, that's the concern. It's like, you know.
And I think for this particular program, at least in my very brief research, is that that you can follow that train, right, from where it is currently publicized to the rec department to registration. So, you know, my sense is if we're being consistent with all of the programming, like Kathy said in the beginning, that is kind of the channel that we followed up to now, which is the same level of inclusivity and opportunity for enrollment like any of the other programs that they offer.
Yeah, and like I said, I think what I took as the two main points were this is definitely not a school-run program. This is, and I don't know that the school has ever officially, I know we've never, as a committee, seen, I have given support. I don't know that it's ever been officially declared that we support, but I don't think we've done that for any